I'm Alex Castro. I'm an artist and architect. I do my architecture in Baltimore. I do my art as I can in Chestertown and Baltimore. I'm also one of the two owners of Urbanite Magazine, which is a magazine that is monthly and deals with cultural and social issues in Baltimore. Though I still work in Baltimore, that's where I do the architecture and run Urbanite. When I come up 213 from Baltimore, I mean, my blood pressure goes down. The smile comes on my face. It's like a new horizon, and I feel like I'm in parallel with Chestertown. You know, I have new opportunities. Chestertown has new opportunities. It's just a great day, and you can feel it here. Chestertown, as I see it and have come to know it in a year, has such resources, and its resources basically are its natural resources, I mean, which are profoundly beautiful, not to be lost. Its cultural resources, which are brought by Washington College and also by people who have done so much spade work here to keep the arts alive and to really develop the arts here, which is phenomenal. I mean, but it's still in its seed position as far as I'm concerned. There's so much more that can go there. Historically, that's the other powerful part of this equation. Chestertown's history is so vital and says so much about the American past. And have something like, you know, the Star Center here is a phenomenal asset. And then the people. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen in my travels, certainly not in any urban areas, the kind of consolidated interest and love of place that I've picked up here. So the opportunities are absolutely ripe. If you put those things together, they kind of make a definition of Chestertown and what Chestertown can be. And as Chestertown thinks about how it's going to develop, taking steps way back, you know, and thinking what really is the definition of Chestertown? What are the strengths? Because you don't have to impose some kind of definition from outside about what this is. You have to really look deeply within what you are to begin with and say, all right, I've got the roots right here to grow from. But see it clearly, and then add as much vigor to it as you possibly can do. And I was thinking the other day, as I was driving back from Baltimore, that, you know, in developing a town, it's kind of like making a soup. You know, you have to know how basic and authentic a soup you want. And if you're really making something, if you're developing or if you're making a soup, you want it to be authentic to place. So the first thing you do is, with a soup, is you go out and you get those vegetables and those things that you can put into this soup that are authentic and appropriate to the area you're making the soup. If you did this in the Southwest, it'd be different from doing it here. Those things going together in a really understood proportion, right? So you're really understanding the proportion of this element to that element, and then cooking it just right is proper development. And that makes a soup which is different from a soup in any other place. So that you don't start with a recipe that is all-encompassing for any jurisdiction. You know, your recipe comes from your understanding of place. And that's the authenticity, I think, that's behind what development should be. Development, those who think you can start out developing with some sort of formula have got it all backwards. You know, a formula can be a filter for your thoughts, but what you really want to start with is what you got in your own hands to begin with. And I think modernism, postmodernism, new urbanism, all of those isms, you know, they're fine. They're fine to know, and one really has to know that thinking because it's been profound thinking. But at the same time, you got to tend your own personal soup, and you got to know what that is, because you can't go applying principles of new urbanism or postmodernism or whatever, or straight urbanism onto a place and impose it. Imposing something on a development is denying its potential, basically. And the Chestertown soup comes from a lot of things. It comes from the geometry of the town, because the feel is terribly important. And one of the nice things that has come out of planning in the last 20 or 30 years is a sense of the place of the human within the environment, right? And the place of the human not only within the constructed environment, but within the natural environment. And how to weave the natural environment and the human environment together to make a texture which we love, We can walk down Cannon Street or Queen Street or Water Street, and we love the texture, the way it's woven together, and that was fortuitous. You walk down Water Street, it's a museum. It's not one type of architecture only. It's a real museum of lovely buildings, same in Cannon, same in Queen. And it's that mix, that wonderful texture, like a soup, the different elements that go together. And it's just knowing how the hell to make a soup that has those elements, treats those elements properly, and in good proportion. So I would throw in an ingredient, because as an artist as well as an architect, I think the arts here are one of the greatest suits that this city, this town has. I define the arts as the entire gamut. Literature, poetry, writing, dance, theater, music. I mean, my God, the arts can invigorate a town. It's done it so far to Chestertown. I mean, the people who really started it here, and I won't name names because I don't want to do that, but there are a few people who have been absolutely intrinsically involved with it and have pushed very, very hard and are still active in it. And I think younger people, and I know I'm going to put my efforts behind it, to have even a more raised consciousness of the arts here. I'll tell you what I would love to see. I'd love to see as an artist. I know that artists need environment. They need places to work. Artists that work, say, in Baltimore, Baltimore gets kind of dingy and closed in and assaultive after a while. Artists would love to get out in the countryside and have a place to work that's open and free and at least challenge their kind of tightness. And I have this great dream, really. I don't think it's just a dream. I think it's a possibility of having artists come here to do work in a new field, which is environmental art. And Chestertown having this wonderful environment, which is like a wonderful sandbox that artists can work in and do things in different places. That would also be a draw for Chestertown and make Chestertown unique. It would bring a totally new aspect to it. There are places like Storm King, which are large outdoor sculpture areas. I think there's 500 acres at Storm King, which are a tremendous draw. But they have art which is physical and not always environmental. But if Chestertown said, we are a natural environment, this is what this place has been. We have this river, we have trees, open landscape. This is a place artists can make a statement. And it would be just wonderful if around Chestertown you had all of these, in the periphery, you had these wonderful works that people came here from San Diego, Taipei, whatever, to see these amazing works. If a different artist came, and I'd love to do this in conjunction with Washington College, that if we had artists coming here, would work with the students would help them build this. The interaction would be fantastic. The worst mistake Chestertown could make is to decide on a formula for expansion that doesn't come from within. That would start to take tenets of formulae that are out there and impose them on expansion and development here. That's a big danger. It's a big danger. Because everything is set up here to develop properly. The other thing too is development at best is organic. If you come along and in one fell swoop say, I'm going to implant this development, right, systematically across this space, then you don't have a chance to reflect and modify as you grow. And good growth really depends on being able to say, okay, I make that move now. Was that proper? If not, let's modify and keep doing this. That's hard when you're trying to make an infrastructure all at once that everything can build off of. But as much as possible to grow in an organic way, a natural way, a very green way at the same time is really important. And if you don't do that and you just impose without really going deep, you're stuck. And once again, once gone, something's gone.